Hi guys, my name is Sasmitha. I'm a guitarist slash medical student from Kandy, Sri Lanka. Yes, there's actually a place called Kandy, spelled with a K though. And if there was one moment where I could point to where I'd say it changed my guitar playing life and as a result my life, it would be this. So for those who don't know what that clip was, that was John Mayer covering All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix at the Made in America Music Festival in 2014. And I remember playing that over and over and over again for about 4 days straight. That was the only song I listened to. And then I dug a little deeper into John Mayer and who this guitarist was. And then I came upon this. And that, I'm pretty sure all of you know, is his performance of Gravity at Where the Light Is. So that actually opened up my knowledge and my understanding of what guitar playing is and how magnificent a guitar can actually sound. And since then, for about 6 years now, I've been following and hunting that tone down. And this video is probably a celebration and an exhibition, a display of the work I've done to get that tone. So what is this video going to cover? This video is going to cover all of the gain stages of John Mayer's guitar tone on Where the Light Is. What this video does not cover, however, is all the modulation and all the pitch effects. For example, the envelope filter used on I Don't Trust Myself with Loving You, and the micro synth stuff and the octave stuff on the final solos of Belief and I Don't Need No Doctor will not be covered in this video, simply because some of the plugins I've used do not have the devices or the pedals required to get those tones. So for now we'll be sticking to the normal gain stages of the amp. Alright, so before we start off, I would like to tell you the resources I've used to get these tones. So first of all was my ears. I've been listening to this concert for about 6 years, as I said previously, and I know what it sounds like. And when it comes to gear, resource all John Mayer fans could use is John Mayer Gear on Instagram. He posts in detail rig rundowns and reviews of almost every John Mayer show there is, and he has also done one of these rig rundowns for the Where the Light Is concert as well, which I used a lot. And I should also mention Vertex Effects, Mason Marangella. We all know that Vertex Effects has a dumbbell sort of pedal in the steel string and the steel string supreme. And actually the IRs I used for every tone was taken from a Vertex Effects demonstration of the steel string supreme. I'll post a link to that video down below so you guys also can get the IRs. So we'll start from the bass tone, that is just the amp tone. And one thing I had some trouble in doing is finding which part of which song uses which tone, So for example, there were multiple gain stages throughout the concert. So the clip I chose to, as you heard in the intro, to compare just the raw amp tone is the intro for Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. So the IR used was, as I said before, the Vertex Effects Mason Marangella IRs. I used the Sennheiser E906 and the Roy R121 IRs, if I'm not mistaken. And according to John May Gear, the amps were fed into a 2-rock 212 vertical cab and were mic'd by biodynamic M88 mic. So that's a dynamic mic. So is the Sennheiser E906. And since the guitar tone is very warm, I used the Sennheiser E906 rather than the Sennheiser SM57, which has a more sizzly quality. So that's what I used. And moving on to the amplifiers, we all know John May used 2-rock guitar amplifiers on this concert, specifically a 2-rock Sterling Signature, which is, I'm sorry, I'm referring to my notes right here. A 2-rock Sterling Signature, which is a clone based on the Dumble Steel String Singer number 4, which John May owns and has been using for these past few years. Along with that, he has used the clean channel of a Dumble Overdrive Special with EL34 tubes in it, which was lent to him by his guitar teacher at Berkeley, Tomu Fujita. When going about recreating those two amps in the different plugins, I'll start off with Bias FX. I went with the Dumble Overdrive 50, I believe, which is Dumble ODS 50 simulation. And to get the 2-rock sound, I went with the 2-Stone Custom or something to that effect. I'll put it in the edit. And on the Line 6 Helix native plugin, what I did was there was no 2-rock amp, so I went with a Fender Deluxe Reverb, which the Dumble Steel String Singer is sort of based off, if I'm not mistaken, and it gets there tonally, it gets close. And what I did was, to replicate the Dumble ODS 50, I went with the Line 6 Litigator amp, which is their take of that sort of Robin Ford Dumble ODS 50 sort of tone. And I didn't ride the gain a lot, I just put it on a minimum level to get the clean side out of it. And on Archetype Cory Wong by Neural DSP, well, it's sort of weird because there's a lot of opinion online that the amp snob amplifier is based off of a Dumble, and honestly I don't hear it. And I've also heard John Nathan Cordy on YouTube saying that it resembles a train wreck amplifier more than it does a Dumble amplifier. And given that train wrecks are based off of Vox amplifiers, it has that sort of sizzly bite going on with it. And I tend to agree with John on that. So I went with the Clean Machine on that plugin, which is basically a clean Fender amp. And the gain was also not that much. It was barely there. So that was my clean tone. And next we can look at the slightly gainier tone, say a clean boost sort of tone, for the lack of a better word, which would be John engaging the Marshall Blues Breaker. So there were a couple of instances in the concert where I noticed him doing this. That would be the transition from the intro to the actual riff on Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, and the same instance, the transition from the intro to the riff on Gravity. So in this video I chose the song Gravity to show that. On Line 6 Helix native, it was pretty simple. I went with the apparent pedal, which is basically a Analog Man Prince of Tone simulation, which is a take on the Blues Breaker, a slightly different take on the Blues Breaker, but take on the Blues Breaker nonetheless. On Bias FX, since I have the Bias FX Elite plugin, I also have the Bias Pedal plugin. So what I did was I created a Blues Breaker on Bias Pedal and imported that into my signal shape. The closest thing they had to a Blues Breaker was a Blues Drive pedal, which I believe is sort of a Boss Blues Driver simulation, and it had this weird low-end addition to it, which I didn't like and which didn't sound like the Marshall Blues Breaker. So I created my own pedal and went with it. On Archetype Cory Wong, they don't have a Blues Breaker. The only pedal they have going into the Tube Screamer is the compressor pedal. So I reduced the compression and increased the output on that compressor pedal to simulate a Blues Breaker sort of sound. And when talking about the delay and reverb, John Mayer used a very huge Aquapus delay, which is an analog delay sort of Boss DM2 kind of analog delay, which I replicated on each plugin. It was pretty simple, honestly. Just even if it was a digital delay, I think on Archetype Cory Wong it is a digital delay. I'm not sure. So what I did was I just put on the high cut. I actually put a pretty substantial high cut onto the repeats, and it sort of did the trick. And for reverb, if I remember correctly, it was a spring reverb John used. So I did the same on all the plugins. Moving on to the next gain stage, which is, I would say, the dirty rhythm gain stage, where John is using, at least according to my ear, is using just the Tube Screamer. So instances of that would be, the rhythm tone on Who Did You Think I Was, and the rhythm tone on Good Love Is On The Way. So I've used Who Did You Think I Was as the example here. Let's give that a listen. So on Line 6 Helix native, what I did was, use the Tube Screamer, similarly on the Bias FX plugin and on Archetype Coded. However, when listening to the actual album recording, you can hear a huge bump in the mid-range. I don't know whether it was done in post while it was mixed and mastered. You can hear this almost excessive mid-hump at between 1000 and 2000 hertz, that sort of range. So to replicate that, I had to put in an equalizer on all plugins. I activated the equalizer for this on Archetype Cory Wong as well. So on most of the tones, that equalizer was activated. I think on everything except the clean tone, that equalizer was activated. So that was something very significant and very surprising. Then moving on to the next gain stage is the Keeley Katana going into the Ibanez Tube Screamer. So this is a bit of a tricky one. So the clip I used to get this tone, to dial in this tone, is the intro to Belief. And I've seen multiple covers of Belief being done with the Blues Breaker going into the Tube Screamer or the Clon going into the Tube Screamer, and I tried doing that, but it just sounded way too gainy for me, like way too much drive for me. And then I asked Alejandro at John Mayer Gear, what do you think Belief is recorded as? He said he sounds like just a Tube Screamer to me. So, and I tried that as well, and it didn't sound exactly right. And then I remembered every time he used the Black One guitar. John used the Black One guitar. He engages a Keeley Katana. And then I tried boosting the Tube Screamer with a sort of a boost pedal where available, or a compressor pedal on some of the plugins, and it got close. And I have to add an extra delay. That was also done after consulting Alejandro. The delay time is about 970 milliseconds. John used a Cornish tape echo simulator, a TES. So I used a transistor tape delay on the 96 Helix native plugin, and also a similarly voiced tape plugin on Bias FX, and I used the only delay available on archetype Cory Wong. So moving on to the next gain stage, this is the highest gain tone on where the light is. This would be the blues breaker running into the Tube Screamer and running into the amplifiers. So what I did to replicate this tone was, add the AI parent, add the compressor on archetype Cory Wong, and add the blues break I made to the Tube Screamer on Bias FX2. And there are many instances where John uses this tone, on almost every solo he uses this tone, I think, including the interlude solo on Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. It had this sort of a singing quality to it, which the Tube Screamer by itself cannot produce, which I believe, the blues breaker running into the Tube Screamer can only produce. It was this really peculiar tone. However, the clip I've used to demonstrate this tone is, the outro to Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. And with that being an outro, I thought it would be a good outro for this video as well. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you found this interesting, and I will post the links to get the presets in the video description down below. You can drop me a message if you're interested in getting those presets. This is the first video I've recorded and uploaded on YouTube, of me actually talking. So if there are any pointers you would like to make, if there are any suggestions to improve the content, I guess all suggestions are welcome. Please be nice to me and each other in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.